Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Zoom Into Wine. It's time for the show and your host, Ian Blackburn.
All right, we're just going to get started here. I'll get Jeff in here.
Unmute, okay.
There you are. I see you.
Hello?
Hey, Jeff.
Why is it not working?
I hear you fine. We'll let them figure that out, and they'll say hi.
Hello?
Hi. Why don't we get this party started? We'll just have Jeff talk to us while you guys figure out the volume thing. All right, I'm going to talk to the group. I'm going to mute you guys, and we'll talk amongst ourselves until you guys figure that out. But my name is Ian Blackburn, and I run Zoom Into Wine, and I've been hosting Learn About Wine classes since 1995. And our guest tonight is Jeff Cohn. Jeff and his wife are figuring it out at home. We've all been there. I've got my virtual background up now. I'm going to take it back down just so you can see our new little place. We've been moving into our new warehouse in Los Angeles, and we continue to operate the Merchant of Wine and do our Zoom programs. And we've got many great guests coming onto the program, so I just want to share with you a couple of things that we have coming while they figure that out. So let me open that page up and show Zoom Into Wine calendar that's coming up. We've got a fantastic sold out event with Helen Keplinger. Why is it sold out? Because I can't get any more wine. So Helen Keplinger is sold out, and then we're going to our Beekeeper tasting, our launch of our Beekeeper 2018 Hidden Hillside Reserve. Then we've got Laurent Perrier for a night. We're going to learn all about Laurent Perrier with Emily from Laurent Perrier. She's going to take us on a tour of the brand, and we're going to send everybody a bottle of the cuvee, the rosé. And you can join the Zoom for cheaper than buying a bottle, for less than buying a bottle of the wine. So you might want to check that one out. It's a particularly good offer. Coming up in the month of May is our big event, the Stars of White Wine. And we've got 12 incredible wines to teach you all about. We're going to be on the Zoom with the winemakers, with the owners, with all these fantastic people. 6 wines per night, 2 nights. Some of the best in white wine. I was able to hand select some really killer wineries and personalities and bottling. So Craggy Range from New Zealand, a grape called Melon de Bourguignon, which makes the delicious wines of the Loire Valley. And I want you to learn all about Muscadet from them. We're going to be up with the Dellinger family. That's Dalinger. Family in the Russian River Valley. They were on the cover of the Wine Spectator. It's absolutely one of the best Chardonnays in California, and they are our only Chardonnay reference from California on this entire event. We're going for Chenin Blanc down in South Africa, some Viognier from up in Napa Valley from a high-end producer, and then over to Alsace for some incredible wines from Weinbach. I do love my Chenin, and we sell a lot of Chenin Blanc, so we're going to visit Chenin Blanc in Santa Maria Valley with the family that makes Fox and Wines. And then we're going to go to Chablis and drink some Chardonnay with a really top small producer and learn all about Chablis. We'll go over to Rioja for a Rioja Blanco, and then we'll head over to Portugal, learn about something really cool from the region known as down, like slow down, if that's how you pronounce that. And then we'll head back over to Alsace for some time with Mr. Humbrecht, and then we'll finish up in Vouvray. So it's about as awesome of a lineup as I could put together, and I hope you guys will join us. It's just in time for the summer session, and all these wines will be amazing to have on your table for the entire summer. I wonder if they gave up. I gotta see. Doesn't look promising over there. But let's check this out and go. Jeff, are you ready to go, buddy? Hi, Lisa Tess. Hey, Kent. Hey, Mary Grace. Setsuko in Japan. Good to see you all. Susan.
It's Gary.
Gary, sorry, Gary,
Hey,
I forgot.
yeah.
I
No
only
problem.
met you 20 times.
Yeah. Good to see you. Yeah.
You too. Alexa, how you doing, buddy? I think I hear it. I think
There
I hear
you
it.
go.
Yay,
We got a
okay.
full screen.
Okay, so it comes up as Alexa. You know I'm Alexandra. You know that. But anyway, so, but I didn't know where to type in Jeff. Yeah.
And we're drinking already, so that's good.
Well, cool, man. I'm glad you figured it out.
Yeah, well, it's technology, and that is not what I got a degree in school. So
Well, we understand.
it happens.
Yep.
So I'm ready whenever you are.
All right, buddy. Well, we'll get started here now. Let me introduce you to my friend Jeff Cohn. My name is Ian Blackburn. I'm the host of Zoom Into Wine, and you can find our events at Learn About Wine and also on our wine store called merchantofwine.com. Every Wednesday and Saturday we got tastings that bring together wine personalities, great wine, and really some wonderful people to learn all about these wines. And we'd love to have you participate and check this out. Jeff, I've known you a long time. Every time I taste wine with you, I'm blown away by the way you put things together. Please, let's just start off with like a little bit of a history. When did you get started as a winemaker?
Well, I went to school for culinary arts at Johnson Wales in Providence, Rhode Island. And then I got my BS in hotel restaurant management from Florida International University. And, working in the hospitality industry, obviously you get that true exposure to wine and food. But I'm going to say, when I was taking a wine and beverage class at Florida International University, I had my first experience with Zinfandel. On the first day of that class, we tasted both a Chateauneuf de Pape and a Zinfandel from the Eschen Vineyard from Rach. And that Zin set something in my head. We've all had that aha moment, and that was it for me. And I have always loved Zin since. I've also been obviously very, very influenced by the Rhone Valley. And that's one of my things that I consider my winemaking style very Rhone-centric. So everything I do has that influence on it.
What year was it that you put your first wine in the bottle?
1996.
All right.
96. So, but I worked at a little winery called Bordy in Maryland for a few years when I was living back in Maryland. And, I made wine while I was at Fresno. And when I got done with Fresno State, I went to work for Kent Rosenblum. Out of all places, I could have gone Napa, Sonoma, Paso Robles, Santa Barbara, Amador, wherever, but I fell in love with Kent Rosenblum. I hope everybody knows who he is. He was one of the great masters of Zinfandel, and in my eyes, one of the nicest people you could ever know. And he gave me opportunities and chances to do some great things, and also to start my own wine, which was really a big to-do. To sit there and ask your enologist at the time, if you'd like, you could start your own brand. And I jumped on it with 75 cases. So that was my first wine. So
very nice. And how long did you work for Kent?
10 years. 10 years I was at Rosenblum. When I started there, they were going from 12,000 cases to 32,000 cases. When I left, we were 175,000 cases.
Holy smokes! And what year was it that you made the #1 wine in like the universe with the Wine Spectator? Was that?
Oh, it was the number three wine in the top 100. It was the 2003 vintage that we got it in 2005. We were given those honors. Now Kent didn't even tell me about it. Right? He was like, "Well, we didn't get #1, so it wasn't such a big to do." And I was like, "What are you talking about? It's a #3. You're the third wine in the top 100, and it's Zinfandel."
Zinfandel, it wasn't
Zinfandel
or Chateauneuf de Pape or something like that. Everyone in the world is probably going to be able to get their hands on. It's a California Zinfandel. So quite honestly, that event in itself helped convince me to start making Zinfandel. The fact that you could really
Good. And that was the first year that we started using larger format barrels at Rosenblum. Before it was always 60-gallon barrels. That year we went into 500-liter barrels, and Kent was so convinced of it that we went from using 2 500-liter barrels that year in that program to bringing 80 of them in the following year. Oh. So, and we made 5,000 cases of that Zin. So it was pretty amazing.
That was fortuitous.
Yeah, it was awesome. Crazy. It was great. It was it was pretty much a highlight in my life to be able to say that I had my hand in that, and I think that that gives you that feeling inside that Zinfandel can be more than just Zinfandel, and you do the same thing, right? Zin is not just blackberry blueberry goo. It can be something very, very special, something very exotic and very complex. And that 2003 has aged quite well. I still have 1 bottle left.
Wow, so amazing. How cool. Well, I'm a big fan of your wines, and I wanted to create more fans inside of our group, so we started talking about doing this event a couple of months back. I know some of you may have tasted Jeff's wines either at one of our events or at previous opportunities. It's been around for a while, and let's get started with the 3 wines that we're going to cover, and we're going to cover a lot of ground. So we are. We're going to cover a lot of ground. First thing I want to mention is, because I never want to forget, in 1996, obviously Kent gave me the opportunity, but my mother, who I love dearly, she gave me the funds to be able to afford to make wine, because wine is not inexpensive to make. And as I said, I started with 75 cases. And because I miss my mother, she's no longer with us. She's on every bottle. There is an iris on every single wine that I make. So I think about her every time I look at a bottle or drink any of my wine. So, well, I can appreciate that. I know it takes it does take a lot of financial investment to get the wine brand going, and once you get it going, it just keeps you bone dry for a long time. So
it does. We live off of potato chips. So, well, I'm excited because today we're going to be trying 2 Rhone wines and 1 Zinfandel.
All right. Well, I'm going to break into
let's start off. We're going to do PowerPoints, and we'll jump around a little bit because that's how I do it.
All right.
But we're going to start off with the Viognier.
Sure.
And there I am, all that information about me. I just have to tell you, because we were talking about Kent, when I did my interview at Rosenblum, it was a 3-hour tasting in the barrel room, and there was no place to spit. So you drank everything as you went through the interview. And here, I have this great resume made up, and I'm feeling really professional about it. He didn't even look at the resume. All we did was taste wine, talk about, what I'd like to do in the future, what I thought of each of the wines. And you know what? I learned so much just from that, because you can't judge a person by their resume. You have to judge them by who they are and their passion. So there you go.
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad he was able to see that in you and got you rolling.
He did. And one of the things that I did bring to Rosenblum was we brought the Rhone project, and Ken was making Carignan, a little bit of Mourvedre, but we went full throttle and put our foot, pedal to the metal, and we made a lot of Rhone varietals. So I had fun.
That's cool. And he was able to sell that brand to the larger company as you guys ramp that up, right?
$108 million.
Wow.
Didn't own. He owned 1 vineyard, but didn't own anything. That building, nothing. Just the barrels and the wine and the equipment. And you know what? It happened at the right time. I don't think it will ever happen again. Not like that.
That sounds pretty tasty.
I always said to Kent, there was one time I went to the cold room and I saw there was 2 pallets full of Carignan there. I said, Kent, man, it's going to take a while to sell these 2 pallets of Carignan because they'll be gone by next week. And sure enough, it was gone. So life was good.
Wow, that's quite a run, man.
Yeah, we had fun.
It couldn't have happened to a nicer guy.
It couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. I totally believe that.
Yeah.
So Rhone varietals, they are as much as I love Zinfandel, I am so passionate about Rhone varietals. This photo, that first photo that you had up, that showed the name of the vineyard.
Yeah, I'll put that back.
Stagecoach Vineyard. And there's Yves Gangloff, who we'll talk about in a second. The vineyard history is that this vineyard was developed in 1996 by Jan Krupp. It's at the 1,800-foot elevation. It's volcanic red, yellow clay, very, very rocky soil. And, I have been a fan of Viognier. Condrieu is like one of my favorite white wines to drink. Love it. I want to breathe it. I want to smell that vineyard when I'm out there in Condrieu. If people don't know, Condrieu is a little appellation in the Northern Rhone where all they're allowed to grow is Viognier. That is it. You blink your eye, you've driven through Condrieu. So it's very, very small. In 1997, I made my first attempts at making Viognier at Rosenblum, for both Rosenblum and for my own label. And I can tell you that they were good, they were not inspiring. In 1998, I went down to Hospice de Rhone, which at that point was called the Viognier Guild. And I met 4 incredible winemakers. They happened to be put on my bowling team, out of all things, at the Ronin Bowl. Yves Gangloff, Yves Couleron, Francois Viard, and Pierre Gaillard.
Wow.
And, they were pouring at this function, at the bowling tournament, but also throughout the event. And a lot of other producers of Condrieu were there also. And as I tasted through everybody's wine, both the reds and whites, I was both embarrassed by what I had brought to the table, but I was very, very inspired. And because I was so fortunate that these 4 guys had nobody to bowl with and they got put onto my team, I became friends with them. And we have become very, very close over the years. To the point where I've made wines with each of them. With Pierre Gaillard, I did a blend of Syrah from the Ventana Vineyard and Saint Joseph, and Rockpile and Côte-Rôtie. Francois Viard, I've made wine in Condrieu, and Yves Couleron, I do a project at Rockpile, the Domaine de Shiraz. It's a project that we do together. And of course, when Jan Krupp called me up and said, "Hey, I got this vineyard to work with for Viognier, are you interested?" I was like, you know what? The only way I'm ever going to do this project is if I do a collaboration. So I called Yves Gangloff up, and because he is one of my favorite Condrieu producers. And he said, "Listen, I'm coming out in a couple of weeks with the guys. Why don't we take a trip up to the vineyard? Let's talk about the project. Let's design the project." And that's exactly what we did. It took one phone call, one visit to the vineyard, and I signed on the dotted line. And I will tell you that during that whole time period that Jan Krupp owned that vineyard, I drove him crazy because I made him wait and wait and wait to pick. Because that was a Gangloff thing. That's my type of thing. But, for me, it's really important to not make Viognier like California Viognier. Nothing against producers of California Viognier, but I want something that is more. I want it not to just be about peaches and apricots. I want it to be about layers and complexity. I want you to pick up the minerality in the vineyard. I want you to have to think about the wine, because I think great Viogniers, great Condrieus are wines that make you think. So the concept for this wine was, it dealt with flavor profiles. That's what to me was the most important thing for this wine, was to deal with the flavor profiles, fermentation techniques. Very, very different. I'm giving you all the good info. We do not ferment this cool. This is a warm fermentation, indigenous yeast, 30% new oak. And we just let it roll. It's 100% ML. I do full malolactic fermentation on that, stir the lees once a week until probably about April. And, that's what it is. Obviously, it's whole cluster press because that's easy. That's the best way for me to make Viognier. There is no skin contact. I know a lot of people starting to do skin contact, but I found that any skin contact with this Viognier up at Stagecoach gave bitter notes. So this, I think this is a true expression of what Viognier can be in California.
Do you have a lot of problems with I understand that when Viognier gets pretty ripe, the birds start to really hone in on it. Is it a crop that you have to protect with netting?
You know what? They don't have a lot of bird problems up at Stagecoach. At least not in my blocks. I think there are other areas that are closer to the trees that they seem to swarm to, but I've been very fortunate. So we haven't had an issue. But I think in many other areas, you do have to.
Shotgun going off every 5 minutes.
No. Honestly, no.
They do use a lot of sound effects to keep birds away from the vineyards when the grapes start getting ripe too.
It has not been a problem up there. There are sections of that vineyard that I know they do it, but I think it's because there's so much Cabernet. And Cabernet takes a little bit longer to ripen, that the birds aren't swarming in at that point, because that's a big vineyard.
Yeah, it is. It's gigantic.
So 2018 was a really interesting year for me because I do this project with Yves Gangloff. He comes out once a year or twice a year, depending on the vintage. And, we definitely spend time in the vineyard. We do a lot of tasting through the barrels. We try to make some ideas and concepts of what we want to do. But in the 2018 vintage, Yves was not able to come out. But Yves Couleron, who is also an incredible Cohn producer and who I do that other project with, he came out, we put the blend together, and he thought that this was probably the finest Viognier that I've made and the closest that I've ever gotten to Cohn. So I love it. As I said, this is a wine about layers. It's about creaminess. It has the peach and the apricot, but I like the honey, the white flowers. It's a full-bodied experience. It's not this, acid-driven wine. So many people think that wines should just be about acid, and it's not. Wines from the Northern Rhone and the Southern Rhone are not about low pHs and high TAs. They're about the vineyard and letting the minerality, the site speak. And that's what this one's about.
Let me just show you guys a couple of pictures. This is when I went to, I was up in, I'm not sure whose block I'm photographing here, so I apologize. But this place is insane. Atlas Peak. It's a single appellation, Stagecoach vineyard. Single vineyard, huge vineyard, really crazy minerality rocks. I mean, those piles over there are piles of rocks that they pulled out.
That's Mark Harold's block.
Is it really?
Yeah, they took all those rocks. That's nice. I like that.
That was a beautiful day. We were having a picnic up on those big rocks. That's the size of the rocks. They're boulders. They probably broke them in half just to move them. And there's a good look. Look at that.
So Ian, when you go up there and you see that vineyard, you just know that something fantastic is going to come from there. You just know. Yeah. It has a feel. As those photos that you've taken, it has this, I don't know, this feel that I get when I go to Rockpile. There's this magnetic force to it that draws you in, and that's the same thing at Rockpile as I get at Stagecoach. There's a calmness that I get when I go up there, except in 2020 when the fire started, it was not good. So in 2020, I didn't make any. I was driving up to the vineyard, and I was about 3/4 of the way up there, and all of a sudden I saw the plume of smoke, and all of a sudden I started seeing people driving down the hill, driving down the mountain, and I'm like, this is not good, and I could smell it. I drove into the vineyard. I got greeted by two guys who said, listen, we're giving you 5 minutes in the vineyard, and then you've got to get out. So I did not make any wine that year because it was smoke tainted.
Yeah.
I had to talk about this label because, Yves, and you saw that photo of Yves Gangloff, he's stringy hair, skinny. He's a musician. He's an artist. He's an incredible person. Everybody in his family is artistic. His son made this label for us. 2 barrels, 2 guys. It's very, very New Yorker magazine meets the Northern Rhone Valley. And I love it. It's one of my favorite labels that we have.
So you could call it 2 Yves.
Well, no, because it's Yves Gangloff and me.
But you had color on.
Yeah, I had Cohn help me put the final blend together this in 18. Yeah, we could have said, and hey, I would have drawn myself in. So, but I love doing these collaborations. I have learned more about winemaking through them, and understanding that you have to sometimes just let things happen. Just let things be happening, but you have to be smart enough to know when you've gone too far,
And do you have to worry about yields with this grape variety?
You do. And I think that drove Jan Krupp crazy when he owned it, because I was always in there saying that we got to keep the yields down. But very fortunate that the clusters were very, very small in many, many of the vintages that I've worked up there. So it hasn't been a real problem. I think it would drive him crazy that I made him wait to pick, because he would call me up and go, Jeff, everybody else has picked all the Viognier except you. I said, well, obviously somebody knows what they're doing. And that would drive him crazy, because he's like, well, I don't know. I'll be like, Jan, who's getting the best reviews? Who's getting the scores? So, yeah, he'd be like, it would be nice if you would pick it one day. That's what happens when you have an owner looking out. So
that's the clash between winemaker and grape grower too. They want you to harvest it, because if anything goes bad, along the way, it's like an invitation for a problem.
Oh God! But it never was an issue. We always he always wound up buying cases of my wine, be it the Marsanne that I used to make up there or the Viognier, because he really, really was into that wine, and he was always like surprised at how I was able to get certain things out of it that he could not. And I think that's just, like I said, collaborations, exposure to certain wine styles from the Rhone Valley. I mean, you look at the alcohol level on mine, the alcohol level on Condrieu's are the same. So when people say, French wines, the alcohols are less, it's not always true, especially in Condrieu and in Châteauneuf-du-Pape. So
I do think that the quality of the vineyard's really shining through. In addition to your winemaking style, there's a heartbeat here right behind it. That's a lot of Viogniers that I taste are just really thin and fruity, and smell like Apple Jacks. And this has got just you can really smell that stone. And I'm actually surprised to see a 14.7 on that alcohol. I don't detect it at all, to be honest.
It's very, because it's this full body. It's the picking, the flavor profile of when you pick is so important, and the skin, what the skin looks like when you pick. It gets a little ugly. It has more of like a purple color and starts to get a little brown on the edges from the sun. But it's all about flavor profiles, and that was something I spent a lot of time with Yves, and it's hard to completely understand it. But when you know it, It's the only way I can ever explain it to somebody. And I'm going to give a plug out, because we're talking about flavor profiles. When I was at Fresno State, I became very good friends with Pam Starr. who at that point was working for Spotswood. And I called her up once while I'm a student in school, asking her about pHs and TAs when she's going to pick. And she said, it's not about that. She goes, if you want to learn, you're going to come up here. So I would go up there before the picking for weeks prior to the picking. And I would go up there and taste fruit with her. And I would be like, this is still green. She goes, that's right. Now you can go home. So going back and forth from Napa, St. Helena, back to Fresno on a weekly basis, I got to see how the development of flavors happen. And I took that and I applied that to everything that I do. So I think I was very fortunate that you can't teach that in school. That's something you can only learn by having somebody who can mentor you. And the same thing happened when I worked with Gangloff. So,
Well,
you guys like that Viognier? Everybody like it?
Drinking that wine right now, Katie?
It's good.
I saw
Kate,
it.
good?
Great. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I love it. I
Excellent.
love that wine.
Beautiful.
Somebody made a comment to me and asked me who would I like to drink a bottle of wine with at this point in my life? Who would I be most interested in? And due to COVID, I actually said pretty much any friend that I haven't seen in the last year. And I want to be able to give them a hug at the same time. So that is my answer to that. Because dang it, I really do miss my friends in France. I don't know when I'm going to see them again. We do communicate via phone and via, internet and everything else, but it's been a long road. So we're on Sweetwater Springs next.
Sure. Let's see what our PowerPoint says that we're.
Yeah, whatever the PowerPoint says.
So you obviously make just a small amount of the Viognier, and you sell this direct to consumer through your website.
We do, in the tasting room. We make, it started off as 2 barrels, but it went up to 6. And Viognier, I'll tell you a quick story about Viognier. When I first started making Viognier, nobody knew how to pronounce it. It was Viognier, Viognier, whatever it was. And it was very, very challenging to sell. And my wife was like, you know what, you got to make a different white. So I decided, because I live in this Rhone world, that I am going to make a Grenache Blanc Roussanne blend. And it's going to be 75% Roussanne, or Grenache Blanc. And it's going to be easy to sell. People are going to fall in love with it. And my wife, being the smart one that she is, the CPA, thinking straight, she's like, nobody's ever heard of Grenache Blanc and Roussanne. This is, 1998 or 99. And I'm like, are you sure? She goes, you got to come up with a name. So that's when I developed the first date. So I stayed away from Viognier for many, many years until this project happened. So.
Well.
All right, we're on Sweetwater Springs.
Yes, sir. We found out the answer. We're going straight to Sweetwater Springs.
All right.
You make how many different Zinfandels, Jeff?
I make up to 8 different Zins. I at one point made more, but I decided that I couldn't live through the world of Kent Rosenblum forever. I wanted to explore other projects, and I decided let's move down to like 7 or 6, and try to expand on those.
And this is a Russian River appellation Zinfandel Vineyard. How old are these vines?
Planted in 2004 by Ulysses Valdez.
Oh, cool. Another Valdez property, huh?
A Valdez project. And for those who don't know Ulysses, he was also another one of those forces in the wine world, and also, in my eyes, one of the nicest people. He was like a brother from another mother. Planted this vineyard in 2004. I started making fruit from it in 2007. He called me up and he's like, Jeff, I've got this vineyard that you have to see that I'm planting. I am taking budwood from the old St. Peter's Church vineyard, where I also make wine from there, and I did at Rosenblum also. And we're going to propagate it over there. We're going to get all the budwood. We're going to plant this vineyard that is a 55-degree slope vineyard, 300 to 1,000 foot elevation. Soil very, very similar to what I have at my rock pile vineyard from where I make my Syrahs from. And I called me, he said, you got to look at it. And I went and I saw it. I was like, sign me up. It is 85% Zin, 15% Petite Syrah that's also planted in the vineyard. That budwood originates from the home ranch from Stagecoach. And once again, there is an iris that adorns the label. But that being said, there's also another name on the back of the bottle. I have two daughters. One's name is Isabel and one's name is Haley. Isabel is very carefree, easygoing, a musician, very creative, vibrant, outgoing. And I thought, you know what? The perfect matchup would be a Zinfandel, because that's what, to me, this Zinfandel is all about. Then, of course, I have Haley, who's on my rock pile Syrah. She's stubborn, hard-headed, and, a bit of a pain. She is going to wind up taking over the world. But let's get back to this Zin. This is, let me pour myself a little bit of a glass of this.
Jeff Kent is on from, I believe, Ohio tonight, right, Kent? And he's drinking the 2012 St. Peter's Church.
2012 St. Pete's.
Yeah, he's
jealous.
Cellar, and he's been really active with us, so I'm happy he's here to taste with you.
How's it showing? How's it showing, the 12?
It's absolutely beautiful, and it explodes in the glass over time.
Oh.
And you actually were on an East Coast tour back then and peddled this to us directly. So we are so happy we bought a couple cases from you.
Oh, thank you very much. That is, that is one of those vineyards that when you get offered fruit from there, you just have to do it. There's so many wineries that would love that fruit, but never get the opportunity. I know Bobby Ollie was always hungry for it, and Pete Stagecoach never could understand why he couldn't get it. So I'm fortunate that I have that. As I said, Ulysses, he and I were very, very, very close people, and I consider his family my family, and I know he felt the same way. So I think when you have that passion, that feeling towards each other, you take care of each other, and you make sure that the fruit that you're growing for that person is going to be at that level. You have that commitment to that person, not just as a business, but as being part of a family. So.
And Jeff, you did wonderful things with it, so much appreciated. And I'm still waiting for Ian to get back up to Black Sears in the same way you went there. So.
Yeah.
Black Sears, that's a good. His Black Sears was delicious.
Absolutely.
I love it.
Wow.
So, as I said, the Sweetwater Springs Vineyard, very, very similar soil types to what Rockpile is about, a 55-degree slope vineyard. When you look at this vineyard, you feel like you're coming into the Rhone Valley. This doesn't really show how steep it is, but when you're starting to walk down that hill, trust me, it is really, really rocky and very, very steep. There's a very Northern Rhone complexity to this wine. As this vineyard has gotten a little bit more mature, I find that it becomes more elegant and more finesse driven than just powerful. There is something on the nose that always amazes me. Like there's a touch of like Viognier on the nose, and you sit there and go, I don't know how that happens or why it happens, but that vineyard seems to have that aromatic profile.
Huh. So that's the Rhone component that you're talking about, is that kind of that co-fermentation type of character that we...
It's not even there, I do 20% whole cluster. Well, I guess I should talk a little bit about the winemaking. I think that would help explain part of the Rhone-centric philosophy.
Okay.
all this is all hand-picked. We pick it very, very cold. We pick very cold either in the middle of the night or very, very early in the morning. I bring that fruit in. I do not process it right away. I put it into a cold room. I feel there's something magical that's happening between the rachis, between the stems and the berries. I like to hold it for 24 hours, and then we hand sort everything. We do about 20% whole cluster on this wine. I like using whole cluster. I like using stem inclusion because I think it brings out a savory component, and for me, brings out more of what that vineyard is all about, the flavors and aromatics of it. We go into open top fermenters. We do a 3-day cold soak to bring out aromatics and flavors that you don't get once you start primary fermentation. During that time period, we do a 3 times a day foot stomp on the fruit, very, very gentle. Then once primary fermentation starts, we let it warm up naturally. We do up to 5 punch downs a day. Once fermentation is complete, we drain directly into whatever receptacle we're going to be aging this in, be it in 158 gallon barrels, 132 gallon barrels, 80 gallon barrels, concrete vessel that's on the sheet. We use a 270 gallon, I call it a hippo, concrete vessel. We do not rack this wine at all. No racking. We only taste every 2 to 3 months. So we don't top very often, and we age it between 16 and 18 months.
Wow, it's pretty wild. I wonder what people say that they think it tastes like when you taste people on it, whether they're in the trade or whatever. Do you get a lot of Grenache references? You
do. You get Southern Rhone references.
Yeah, I mean, in a blind tasting, it just really is like a Grenache and Syrah, white grape co-fermentation type of a wine. It's got all those characteristics. That little stemminess really kind of leads you to believe that's what you're drinking too.
So I can't remember what year it was. I make a wine called the Imposter, which is a big Rhone Zinfandel blend, and every year that I do it, I try to bring somebody in from the Rhone Valley to help me put this blend together. So one year, 2013, I had Laurence Farreau come into town. She does Pagot, Chateauneuf-du-Pape, and we put the blend together. It was an amazing experience. Her palate is incredible. Her winemaking style is really outrageous. And at that point, she gave me a bottle of her Capot, 2007 Capot. And I sent her home with a bunch of Zinfandels. And I told her, I said, don't open these right away because I just bottled them and now you're going to put it on a plane. Well, she got home and she decided, you know what, she's going to open up a Sweetwater Springs Zin. It was her birthday. So she sent me a nice message saying, you know, the Sweetwater Zin was my mother's favorite wine. She loved it even more than the Capot. The Capot was like a $300 bottle of wine. She goes, my mother preferred it over our own wine. So that was a big to-do. I've saved that email. One day I will frame it. And because I think when you have somebody from France whose palate is very French and, you know, is very focused on those varietals that they have, to taste something like this and be able to go, you know what, I've never had anything quite like that. Ooh, look at the price on that. $479. What a deal. So, and that's the 15. This was the 07. So to me, that was quite an honor, and I've saved that. And you know what? We have been very, very good friends ever since that whole experience. And
check that little record out there too, man. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. So when the owner's mother prefers my wine over theirs, that's always a nice sign. So
that's cool.
Oh, man, that wine that's showing great, huh?
Yeah,
I'm loving that.
It's really drinking great, buddy. It's gorgeous stuff. And any of you guys have any questions or comments about about the Zinfandel? Because I hadn't tasted it until just now, and Jeff makes a lot of different single vineyards, 7, I guess you said, and and this one is definitely a unique presentation for it. Do you use 20% co-fermentation in all of your vineyards, or just this one?
For the Zins, between 10 and 20%.
Cool.
Depending on the year. And, fermentation techniques are a little different every year, obviously, because of what Mother Nature presents to you. And when we do pick for this vineyard, my goal is, because you got the bottom of the hill, you got the top of the hill, and you got that tenderloin. Each section is going to be a little bit different flavor profile. And what I do is I love that, because I like the fact that I'm going to get some more savory notes from the top and the bottom, and I'm going to get more riper notes in the middle, and together everything is going to come together. So, and I put it together. For many years, I used to keep them separate and play around, and then in the end, I preferred it all together. So we stopped, and I just said, we're just doing it. We're going to make our lives easy. So if that can make my life easy for one project, I'm happy. So.
Awesome. Well, I think as much as I enjoy this wine right now, I'm really curious as to what this does in 5 to 10 years, because I think that component from the stem will just continue to evolve, right?
It does. I love, my daughter turned 21 this past year, and we opened up about 5 different vintages with her, and it was amazing to see how this wine has become even more complex over time. Zinfandel can really age. When it's made right, it will age, and it will age not, it used to be, we used to think that it would taste like old Cabernet, but it doesn't. If you're making it correctly, it just tastes like mature Zinfandel, and I think you get flavor profiles out of it that you won't get when it's young, because it's hidden under all that baby fat, that beautiful fruit that you get in Zin. Once that starts to drop, you get all these other components that come out, and you just sit there and go, wow, the vineyard really starts to show. And that's the most exciting part about drinking wines that are a little bit older. That being said, I always tell people, drink it now, I will make you more. So,
that's right. Or buy a bunch of it so you can drink a little bit now and a little bit tomorrow and a little bit in the future.
I do. I always tell people, why don't you buy enough that you can try some, when it's really young, middle, and then a little bit older, enjoy it. So.
We love it. It's delicious. It's different than the St. Peter's that we bought last time. But I love that it's so rich and full-bodied. I like my Zins, big, and this is big. It's got a lot of flavors, and it's just delicious.
Thank you. But it's, and in the tasting room, we always serve this at the same time we serve the St. Pete's, because the budwood is the same.
Okay.
So there's a little bit, if you taste them side by side, you will pick up those similarities because of that budwood.
Okay.
But the vineyard site is what changes the whole complexity of the wine. So
I'm going to show you a picture, and I want to get your impression. Have you ever tried some of our old California?
Oh my God, 68. No, I haven't had the 68 lately. The 69 I thought was just a little bit better. No, I haven't tried it, but that's probably Monte Rosso, right?
Yeah, man, that's this is another one of my influences where Zinfandels from the 1960s. I think if you look somewhere on this label, upper left-hand corner, really, really small, 12.5 alcohol, and this, look how dark that thing was. And we drank this about 2 to 3 years ago in a Napa restaurant. Right, we ordered it off the wine list. This bottle of wine probably cost $3 when it was released. Maybe not even that much. And does anyone want to guess what the restaurant charged for it in Napa Valley?
Oh,
It
must have been insane.
was a big number.
I didn't think
No.
Zinfandels lasted that long.
Oh,
That's where you're wrong. That's where you're
Okay.
wrong.
that's why you hold them, because they do.
You have
You
to
know,
tell
it's-
us. You have to
it's-
tell us what they charged. You can't tease like that.
Oh well, we had a couple of big wine guys at the table, and we were wanting to reminisce about some '60s vintages. So I bought this one, and they bought the expensive one. This was only $4.50 a bottle on the restaurant wine list. $450.
I'll take two.
Yeah, take two, just in case.
The restaurant sells $100 steak, so it was.
It's not just tasting the wine; it's tasting a really. You're tasting history.
It is. It was absolutely liquid history, and I got to tell you, it was a very good investment. It was something that is emblazoned in my memory, and certainly when you're making Zinfandel, you need to have a lot of ideas, and some of them are expensive. But this one was worth every penny, and if you ever get a chance to try the 68, and the bottles, this bottles is freaking pristine. So
The color was gorgeous.
yeah,
There was definitely a lot of petite Syrah in there.
absolutely. And they, the way they farmed it back then, and that it was just completely probably dry farmed and old vines and all that stuff. So, but anyway, we all have a lot of references and a lot of ideas. And Jeff, we've talked about a couple of yours.
Now.
Hospitality experience and your travel. You've obviously traveled to France quite a bit.
I did. Well, I used to. To.
Well, and you will again. We will all be airborne eventually.
I hope so, because I'm supposed to. We were supposed to do a riverboat cruise for up and down the Rhone Valley. I had a great function scheduled, and it got canceled. Obviously, not once but twice. And I have all my friends who I've done projects with, be it in the northern and southern Rhone, coming on board. And
I got an idea for you.
What?
I seriously, about 5 years ago, started talking to Mr. Bialy about this, and I hadn't really taken it any further. But I wanted to take Zinfandel to someplace in Europe and do a Zin tasting. And I thought, something like Paris would be an awesome place to do a Zinfandel event. And
why not?
no one else is doing it. I thought it would be a really fun way to put Zinfandel in a little bit different context and take it. Whenever I taste good Zinfandel from California in Europe with people, they love it.
They love it. They go home. All my friends, when they come to visit me, I'm like, do you want some of my Syrahs? No. Send us home with Zinfandel.
Absolutely.
They got plenty of Syrah.
They can get Syrah in France. They can't get Zinfandel. They can get, a lot of different grape varieties are pretty ubiquitous, but Zinfandel is really a California story. And while other people are starting to grow it, there are small farms in other places and strange places too. It really takes on its best face right now out of California. And so when people visit California, I tell all the great restaurants, I'm like, come on, you're going to sell somebody a bottle of Chateau Lafite in California when they're visiting from halfway around the world? Or do you want to sell them something that's truly Californian? And I think you make wines that, people should visit and experience here in California. It's just that type of wine.
I totally agree.
Jeff, I have a question. How long should I age the St. Peter's?
Oh, what year?
I just bought it. So what is it, 17?
Just bought it?
Yeah.
Today is Wednesday?
Okay.
Thursday. Thursday's a good day.
Well, I
think
bought
Thursday.
4 bottles though.
Okay,
So
you bought 4 bottles. Do you have a proper storage?
yes.
Do?
Yep.
You know what? I have to tell you, I've had St. Pete's from when I was at Rosenblum, I just recently opened up a 98 St. Pete's with Bob Bialy not too long ago, and it was still holding up. So I think, you know what, 10 years, drink it, you know? And I hate to say it, as I'm getting older, I don't wait as long because I'm like, I'm not waiting anymore. I'm not leaving it for my kids.
Right.
I'm not drinking it. I got plenty of stuff I want to drink.
So explain to me, I'm used to something that's got higher acid and tannins to be able to age, which is not highly present in the St. Peter's. So how does it last?
It's a minerality situation. You know, I hate telling you it's magic, but it's minerality. There is a structure in that wine that helps it age. The only way I can explain, you know, the best way to explain it is I went and visited Jean-Louis Chave in Hermitage. I had a great visit because his wife used to be a salesperson at Kermit Lynch, and so I was able to get in there and meet with him and talk about Marsanne, because that's one of my passion projects. I love Marsanne, but it has, and I make my Marsanne up at Stagecoach. Not to go on to a different tangent, but when I talked to him about pH and TA, he was like, once again, like Pam Starr said, it's not about the pH and TA, it's about the minerality of the vineyard. So my Marsanne is 3.9 pH. TA is like probably 0.44. It's low. And that wine has aged incredibly well. If you ever have a chance to try any of my older Marsannes from Stagecoach, you will taste that and you will go, wow, how does that happen? Because I'm not focusing just on pH and TA. I'm focused on flavor profiles. I'm focusing on minerality and winemaking techniques.
But you are given the clay to do that with. I mean, that clay will have the endurance.
Absolutely.
You have the trust in it, right? And it doesn't come from every vineyard. It's got to come from a great vineyard, It
has to be a great vineyard. Yeah. So, and I mean, who has time to work with anything better but great vineyards? I don't have time to play around. Well, I only want to make really great wines.
And with that, we're going into your Syrah and
Syrah. I'm excited about this because I just poured myself a glass and I am just like, you know, Ian, I don't know about you, but I don't drink my own wine at home very often because I want to taste other people's wines. But when I get to do these events like this and I get to try something like the Ziotoni 17, I'm just flipping out. I love it. I'm just patting myself on the back. I did it a couple of times already. I made this wine. So I am, you know what? I am a very fortunate person. When I was in school in 1993, I met a gentleman, Derek Trowbridge, who his grandfather was Lino Martinelli. And I got to meet the Martinelli family many, many times, taste a lot of wines with them, and become very, very close friends with them. And there was this one day that I got a phone call from George Martinelli saying, hey, you know, I got some Syrah available. Would you be interested in buying some Syrah from us from the Ziotoni Ranch? And just the fact that they called me up, I was excited by that because they're great farmers. Everything is biodynamically farmed, and I was ready for it. It's a very cool climate. AVA is Russian River Valley, obviously. Sebastopol area, very, very cool site. The vineyard is amazing. I wish this photo really showed what that vineyard looked like. Imagine if I took a rug and I shook it, and you had like those sound waves. That's what the vineyard looks like. So you have these high points and low points, high points and low points going on a very nice slope. So you have fruit that's a little bit less ripe, some that's more ripe, some that's even riper, some that's even less ripe. And you get all these different complexities in this vineyard, and it all comes together. It's a gold-ridge soils, it's clay, it's loam, it's dusty earth. and it's planted to one of my favorite clones, the 470 clone of Syrah. So
what was that number?
The 470 clone.
470. Okay.
It's a small berry Entov selection. So they are trellis. They're not head trained like St. Pete's or some of the other vineyards I work with.
Tell us what Entov 470. What does that mean?
So that's a, you know, in France they've been able to isolate certain selections of Syrah in different areas of the south of France and the northern Rhone, and they've cleaned them up so they can be sold to other wineries, to other vineyards. John Caldwell was one of the first to bring them into the United States many years ago. And I was very fortunate to be good friends with John also. And he convinced me that 470 was going to be the future. So I have it planted in many vineyards that I work with. I love it.
Awesome.
So once again, this is the same type of fermentation techniques, you know, with pre-dawn picking. Everything is brought in for 24 hours in advance. But instead of 20% whole cluster, we do 40% whole cluster. I love that whole cluster with this fruit. I love the savory component that it brings out in this wine. Cold soak's the same thing, the 3-day cold soak, punch foot stomp, you know, 3 times a day, 5 times a day punch downs to a certain point. It is aged in 40% new French oak, mostly large formats, as like the Zin, larger format barrels. I don't want the wood to be the focus of the wine. I want the vineyard to be the focus of the wine. And even though it's 40% new oak, that's mostly in these, you know, 600 liter barrels, 158 gallons, 132 gallon barrels, and 80 gallon barrels. So, and Ian, you know, I know you're going to say something about the alcohol, 15.6, but I don't think you can tell.
Dude, bring it on, man. It is so good. And I got to tell you that low alcohol Syrah, which, you know, can be good, but it needs to be 20 years old. And this wine is just showy, luscious, rich, dynamic. I mean, this is so complex, and the nose is just like perfume, and it's just going.
You know what I love about this wine? The licorice. I love the licorice component of this wine. You guys love it?
Oh, for sure, man. Chocolatey. It's got so many different characters of fruit.
I can drink this all night, right? It's I love that blackberry, that there's a touch of blueberry, a fruit compote, you know, cassis, the grilled meats. I could use a steak right now, or lamb. Lamb would be good.
Lamb would be very good.
I love watching people eating and drinking while they're having this. It's good. I enjoy that. There you go. There's a face right there. I saw you, Lisa.
Good job.
So, hey, just so a little bit more information, you know, I have to throw this out. You know, we got to do our little spiel. I am moving my tasting room from downtown Sonoma to Healdsburg.
Wow.
I'm making a big move because I moved from Alameda to Windsor. And even though the winery is in Santa Rosa, I decided I wanted to live a little bit closer to the tasting room so I could be there more often. So
good move, man. That sounds solid. Is this the new location?
No. In Healdsburg, I know people don't know where that is, but it's, I'm going to give you the address. It's 34 North Street, just off the Healdsburg Plaza. There you go. And we'll be opening in about a month. And it's right across the street from Willie's Wine Bar, the seafood one. So,
yep, got the Dry Creek Kitchen right there.
Right down the street.
Bocce, one of my favorite little unknown places. Bocce. I love those guys. Willie's right over here. Cool, man.
It's going to be great. And I'm looking forward to seeing everybody down there. I think Healdsburg is a beautiful area. I'm going to miss Sonoma, obviously. I really like it there. But,
this is a big deal, man. There's a lot of new hotels opening up in Healdsburg. Sounds like you made a really strong move. I like it.
It was a good decision. It was a good decision. I'm happy that we did it. So, but wow, I wish I could taste all my wines with you guys because I have 24 that I make. But there's just not enough time in a day or evening to do it. I will tell you, I did taste all my wines with a wine writer not too long ago, and I can tell you by the 24th wine, I think we both had enough.
That's
it's hard. I don't know how wine writers do it. I don't know.
Iron Constitution, man. They plow. Which do it? Can you tell us which one?
No, I don't want to do that. But it was it went really, really well. I think, from what I remember,
Cool.
24 bottles later, it was like, I got to that last one and I'm like, I've been tasting, I've been spitting, but you got alcohol in your system. So, I don't know.
It does catch
I
up.
think we lost Kent over here.
Oh, he's probably he's enjoying that 12.
Yeah, I bet he is. So, man. Well, this has been a lot of fun. Guys have any questions?
Yeah, questions for Jeff. Go for it.
Can I ask, what does the cold storage of the grapes do?
The cold soak or the cold storage? Which one do you want?
The 24 hours before processing.
24 hours. All right. So I was at a vineyard. I'm not going to mention the winemaker's name because I don't know if he would be thrilled if I did. So I was at a vineyard up in Mendocino, and he was picking Petit Syrah. He was putting it into his refrigerated truck that he had, right? And I was like really surprised that he had this refrigerated truck because it was really cold in the morning. And I said, well, you're just driving it down not too far. He goes, I take it from the refrigerated truck, I bring it to the winery, and we let it sit there for 24 hours. And I thought to myself, that sounds kind of odd. Why do you do that? He goes, I really feel there's something happening between the time that you pick that fruit in the rachis and the stems that's being transferred into the berries. Okay? So I thought, well, this guy's been making wine longer than I have, and he always writes about these things that have been done in like 100 years ago. He'll put texts out there, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to try it. And I got to tell you, I think my wines have been better ever since. Not only do I think the wines have been better, but it has really helped me with my planning of my schedule because I hold it overnight and I can schedule my employees to be there early in the morning to process. Which is, I know that doesn't sound very romantic, but that's part of it. But all honestly, I have not seen any rise in volatile acidity. I've only seen richer wines and much more complex wines. So I've been doing that, I'm going to say almost 20 years.
Do you use any dry ice or anything like that to keep a...
Dry ice, we put it dry ice, but we put it in a cold room that's about 45 degrees. So nothing really happens.
Oxidation's pretty limited just by temperature, and also then dry ice would cover it with a blanket.
And we put a bag over it. Nothing affects it. I just, I think
that kind of the mentality of the fruit changes because it's realizing that it's been pulled off the vine, or there's some sort of an exchange going on. There
is. I don't know how to explain. People always ask about things, and I have a sign up in my tasting room. I said, because one thing I say to my employees during harvest, today, what are we going to do today? We're going to make magic, because that's what we do every day during harvest. We create magic. I to me, I'm still excited by the fact that I'm able to take something that grows from the ground and produce something that tastes so amazing. I gotta turn the light on. It's getting dark in this room. Hold on. There you go.
All right.
So
All right.
I'm like, well, it's getting dark. So, but Ian, I know you feel the same way, that you're producing something that's just magical from the ground. And
But sometimes, I got to tell you, Jeff, I still can't get over. I'm 10 vintages in, and every time I go to make a wine from, some vintages, the fruit tastes good when it comes in. Fruit tastes good when it's right out of fermentation. The fruit tastes good when it's going into the barrel. And then some vintages, I don't like it at all at any point in time. And then I struggle to blend. I tasted it like 1,000 times trying to create the blend. And then 5 years later, I'm like, shit, this tastes pretty damn good.
Yeah.
It just takes a long time sometimes for things to come around. And I think, maybe a little bit more confidence would come if I were making so many different wines and had the breadth of experience that you had. But, only making a couple, just kind of, it's like constantly having one child at a time. It's just really, I micromanage them.
It's sometimes, like I said, I only taste every 2 to 3 months. So sometimes not to be on top of it all the time is the better way. I have found that I have a better feeling for the wines when I don't sit on top of them all the time, because you get to see how they're maturing instead of always constantly tasting.
Give them a little space, huh?
You have to give it some space. But you're making how many different wines now?
Only 3.
Only 3, but they're fantastic. Yeah. One of the tables I go to at SAP. Yeah. So, and that's a lot of tables to go to, and I always go to your table right away. So.
I'm so thrilled to be able to talk to you about Zinfandel, and honestly, your Syrahs are always so magic as well. And I really think more people have gotten into Syrah over the last couple of years. I think Syrah is like a COVID winner. I think people started to cook a lot more, and in every recipe it tells you what wines go really good with that food. And Syrah is like in everything, and people didn't realize it, that it's just such a good food wine, and such and they age so slowly. And so stick a couple bottles of Syrah, old world, new world, whatever, in your cellar and just watch them change. And they really are a wonderful treat. And good on you for making such a awesome selection tonight. I really appreciate you sharing your wines with the group here. And we will be sending out everybody that's on the email tonight a reminder to connect with you. And Jeff will be sending you a note just to thank you for being on the Zoom as well.
Thank you, guys. This has been fun.
It's always great to taste wine.
Gives me a fun time to taste wine with others. Like I said, earlier, I said, when people ask me who would I want to taste who want I drink a bottle of wine with, everybody I have not had a chance to spend any time with and give a hug to. And I cannot wait till we're all done. Hopefully everybody's gotten shots. I don't know. Everybody getting shots?
Hopefully,
because I'm not going to come visit any of you unless you get them. All right, guys. Well, I guess we're done. Are we done? I don't know.
I think we're there, buddy. We appreciate you very much, and we'll be in touch about future ops. But I hope to see everybody very soon. We've got a really fun calendar at zoomintowine.com. I'll be sharing Jeff's information with you in the post-event email. And I thank you guys for tuning in with us tonight. We'll look forward.
I got one more question. I don't even know where everybody is from. Where is everybody from?
Los Angeles.
Los Angeles. Katie.
Los Angeles.
Los Angeles. Lisa.
Santa Monica. She's coughing. Okay.
She's choking. All right.
Mary's in Santa Monica. Susan's in Santa Monica. Teresa's in. Is that Burbank? Teresa, I can't remember. I'm sorry.
Tonga. Close enough to Burbank.
Okay. And then, of course, we have some people who can't see their faces because they're shy.
Marina Del Rey.
Fantastic. You guys, it was all such a pleasure to meet you all. And once
in
again,
Japan, by the
thank
way,
you
Jeff.
all.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, Jeff.
All right.
Bye. Good night.
Visiting you in Healdsburg. You guys have a good night. Thank you for joining me, and I'll look forward to seeing you guys very soon.
Okay.
Yeah, bye. Thanks, Ian.
Bye.
Bye, guys.